everyone's in a party mood, there's work to be done, hard work.
No better place to start the season of Lamborghini Super Trofeo than right here.
The one and only Sebring.
Green flag, green flag.
Every driver knows this is the toughest task on this championship year.
I mean, Sebring is simply abusive as a racetrack.
This is a 5 out of 5 difficulty rating.
Strategy comes into play here, drafting, you name it. What else does it have? Well, it has the bumps. Respect the bumps at Sebring.
17 very challenging corners with names like Gurney, Fangio, Collier. You know that there's history at every single inch of this tarmac.
85-year-old concrete in turn one. It is rough and unforgiving. It gets dicey trying to make moves.
Time to go racing in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, North America. Imagine waiting 131 days to return to your passion. That's exactly what the teams and drivers of Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America have done. 131 days ago, the World Finals were done, and it has been a long offseason. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Brian Till, along with Ryan Marine. We'll have the call for Lamborghini today and throughout the season. And Ryan, this racetrack, it is absolutely something special, something worth waiting for.
No question about it. Everyone anxious to get going in a perfect setting for the first race of the season. Right in the center of Florida, surrounded by the Everglades. This place opened in 1950. A big thanks to aeronautical engineer Alec Ullman, who dreamed up this facility. First race held here was New Year's Eve of 1950. Look at some of the names, Gurney and Fangio, and some of the big braking zones, big trouble spots potentially as well. Turn 1, high speed, high commitment. Turn 7, the hairpin, great passing opportunity. Really technical in the 10, 11, 12 complex. And then Sunset Bend, turn 17. The bumps are as significant there as anywhere around this 3.7-mile circuit. That's about as challenging of a corner as you will find in North American motorsport.
And these drivers are going to be staring into that setting sun down in turn 17, I should say. As the sun begins to set, as we get later into this race. And we talk about there is strategy, even though it's a sprint race. Most of the cars here have a two-driver format, but you got to think about the pit stop as well, because there's going to be a mandatory pit stop. And Ryan, different times for if you are a two-driver format or a single-driver format.
Exactly. It's a 5-second additional time spent in pit lane if you drive as a single driver. The thought is you're already in a rhythm. You already know the track. There's no warm-up process when you get back out. So there's an inherent advantage there. They take some of that away with that 5 seconds of additional time for the single drivers.
This Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 is the fastest straight-line GT car that you will see here this weekend. Straight-line speeds down the front straight and the back straight into turn 17 will be faster than those that you see in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, simply because of the lack of downforce that these cars have, and that creates another problem altogether. 4 different classes, but they all drive the exact same type of car. So in the different classes, it's not that you have less horsepower as you have less experience, and you can see the different classes by a little triangle up in the windscreen shows you the different colors, and that gives you an idea of the different class. And the same thing on the back as the car's going away from you. And as a following driver, you really want to know whether that's a pro car in front of you, an LB Cup car, or an AM car, or a Pro Am car. And here's a look at the way the drivers break down in between the different classes. Pro is for silver or gold level drivers. Pro-Am, you can have a silver or a gold, but you've got to have a bronze. And in the Am category, it's all bronze drivers. And in LB Cup, drivers working their way up into that category of drivers, bronze gentleman drivers, as we call it. Makes for great racing, Ryan.
It does. It's multi-class racing in a sense. As you chronicled, all the cars are the same. It's just the experience level of the driver lineups that differentiates things. That means there's no reason a well-driven LB Cup car can't be mixing it up toward the top 10 overall. That you do see the classes intermingling frequently in races like this. And to your point, you want to know what class the cars around you are in. Is this a fight worth fighting, or do you let discretion be the better part of valor?
See that beautiful Lamborghini Urus SUV will be our pace car and safety car if we need to go full course caution. And what a gorgeous day here in Sebring. what strikes me is not just the air temperature, Ryan, but 57% humidity. That is really, really low. And even though it says 3 miles per hour, I'm looking at that beautiful American flag and the other flags around this racetrack. It's more than 3 miles an hour, I think. And we've heard drivers throughout the day in the different classes talk about how this wind has an effect in some of these high-speed corners.
It certainly does. These Super Trofeo cars, by the way, they don't make the same amount of downforce as their GT3 cousins, so a gust of wind could really unsettle the car through some of the high-speed corners and especially over those bumps. It is blustery, no doubt about it. It's also a little bit warmer than it's been for the bulk of the weekend thus far. The build-up to this event, the temperature's starting to come up here this afternoon, so conditions are going to be a little bit different than what we saw, for instance, this morning in qualifying.
Important words you just spoke, build up and different. And I think every time these drivers have gone on the racetrack is different because of the rubber buildup on the racetrack, right? So we've got different tire manufacturers here this weekend. Every one of these Lamborghini teams on the Hankook tire, and as you go out there each time and more rubber is put down, that's going to change the way the racetrack kind of performs. It changes the amount of grip that you have, and as they head out for this race, it's going to be interesting to see who can adapt to it quickly. You also talked about knowing who's around you. Our front row has a Pro and a Pro-Am combination, but hey, both drivers behind the wheel right now in the front row, very experienced professional drivers.
And they went head-to-head a lot last year. Will Bamber, runner-up in the championship, the guy who beat him to the Pro Class title in part. I mean, there were two, but one of them was Danny Formal, who starts alongside on the Pro-Am class pole. So those two have raced against one another quite a bit in the last 365 days or so. That's going to continue today, but that Pro-Am car a little bit out of place compared to the rest of the cars in its class, and we'll see if that allows Formal maybe to be a bit more circumspect at the start. Meanwhile, look at row 2. It's a bunch of pro-class cars with championship aspirations. They're going to want to get around that out-of-class car as quickly as possible to start challenging for the lead of the race.
Thinking that Danny Formal is out of class just seems so weird. I mean, obviously he is a pro-class driver, and that's going to be perhaps a thorn in the side of Hampus Eriksson, Jaden Conright. They're behind him. They're going to want to get to that rear wing of Will Bamber. But Danny Formal, obviously one of the faster drivers in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and he doesn't want to give up any space because he doesn't want Joel Miller back there in the 10th spot aboard the number 36 to be able to close down on him. So you've got to really think not only about winning this race, but there's a championship at the end, and then, of course, the World Finals.
Well, this has to be a strange set of circumstances for the drivers starting second and third. They shared a car en route to a championship last year, Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal. Now they're split between two different entries in two different classes for the Wayne Taylor Racing team. While they know each other really well, they've never driven against one another because they were always swapping in and out of the same car. So an interesting wrinkle here to start a brand new year.
But they stay with the same team, Wayne Taylor Racing, so you know in that transporter they were having conversations about how the start's going to go. Problems right now for Formal seem to kind of have a little bit of a hiccup there coming off of turn 10. But as I said, they're teammates, so they will have talked about how this is going to go. And for Danny Formal, he knows he wants to hold the lead in Pro-Am, but he wants to give his teammate Eriksson, I would think, an opportunity to get to Will Bamber.
I suspect you're right. I mean, I'm confident those conversations have been held. You know, maybe Formal, though, can get the jump on the start and get to the lead. That's another way he can help out his teammates. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think you're exactly right. Within that team, they know they're on different agendas and don't expect Formal to hold Eriksson up should it come to that.
Well, whether you're watching Lamborghini Super Trofeo in person at the racetrack or on the screen, you're watching history be made right now. This is the largest class for round one in Lamborghini Super Trofeo series. So that's history in and of itself. But I think the other note of history that shows me just how important Lamborghini Super Trofeo has become around the world in the world of sports car racing. This is a record pro field, and you and I have talked about it a lot over the last year or so. Lamborghini Super Trofeo has become a destination now for young drivers looking to move up in the world of motorsport, as well as some of those gentleman drivers, non-professional drivers who want to race in one of the most competitive one-make series that is out there. shows you just how intense the racing is. Like I said, it's a destination location, and that's why you see this record field in the pro category.
And it is a move up in terms of performance, no matter just about what class you're coming from. I talked to a couple of drivers who are rookies in this series, and they said, whoa, the performance of this car is on another level, and it's going to take a little adaptation, perhaps, as the season gets underway.
620 horsepower, 6-speed sequential gearbox, 9 positions on the traction control knob and anti-lock brakes. That gives you a wicked, wicked race car. Time to go racing at Sebring 2026 is about to get underway. Pro in the hands of Will Bamber, that orange and black Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 on pole from TR3 Racing. Danny Formal leads the Pro-Am category. Outside, you've got to stay in column formation when you go across the line, and it looks like a good start to me as they head to turn 1.
Neat and tidy at the front of the field. 39 cars taking the green flag, and Bamber able to consolidate that advantage from pole. Picture perfect start to the new season for the TR3 driver.
Bamber wants to see Danny Formal there in second place. He wants a little buffer between himself and Hampus Eriksson aboard the #1 from Wayne Taylor Racing. Meanwhile, take your time, get through here. A, try to survive. B, pick up a position if you can, but don't risk it all right now.
No, survival, the name of the game on the opening lap. Look how frantic it is in the middle of the pack. Will Bamber is leaving that in his dust. That's exactly what he wants to see. Everyone's scrapping it out behind him. He's starting to pull out a gap, but not so lucky for those that are starting further back in the pack. Class battles mixed up with out-of-class traffic. It's all up for grabs here on the opening lap.
And again, the exact same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 in the hands of every one of these pilots out there right now. So you're not going to get a big advantage on acceleration or top speed or anything like that unless you come off of corner a little bit better. It is going to be hard fought if you want to get to the front.
Now, we saw cars in qualifying have some trouble on cold tires. One of them, Mateo Cederman, has put that car in the tire barrier. They had to start at the back of the pack, he and Martin Fuentes, but happy to say that car was ready to go to take the start by all indications. We'll see if they can come forward, but everyone has to tiptoe a little bit. You talked about the power output of these race cars. That's a lot of power to manage, especially when the tires aren't quite up to temp.
We're talking to Will Bamber a little bit earlier. He said as the temperature comes up, we may have a little tire degradation, but anytime you've got 600 plus horsepower, you're putting a lot of energy through those tires. A little further back, that bright green car at the bottom of your shot right there, the number 88, Gianno Torino. He and Keon Tandon had been having a great scrap of it, and now a problem for the 47 at the exit of turn 16.
And it's Derek Ware around and qualified 21st overall, and now just needs to find a piece of tarmac that he can get that car turned around in. Precision Performance Motorsports, stalwarts in this championship, but a tough way to get started here for Derek as he's now well behind the rest of the pack.
What he's going to be looking for is a full course caution. Let's see if we can find out what happened on his own. Just gets in that throttle, that 600 horsepower. We talk about 9 positions on the traction control knob. A lot of these drivers will tell you they run minimal traction control. You want a little bit of a slip angle, a little bit of a slide in order to maximize grip. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but you need a couple of degrees of slip angle to really get that Hankook tire to work. And if you turn that traction control down too far and jump in that throttle, 600 horsepower can bite you.
As we saw there, and then turned around facing basically half of the field as it filtered by, split on either side at one point. That could not have been a comfortable situation to find himself in, but happily everyone's been able to continue after lap 1.
And a problem now for the 95 as well. Someone else around the 95 is Chris Tasca, who had been the second place starter in the LB Cup category. You see the Fly Alliance on the side of that Lamborghini. Qualified on pole for race number 2 all weekend long. He has never been out of the top 2 in speed throughout the practice sessions as well as qualifying, but somehow it gets turned around, and we'll have to see if contact was involved there in turn 7.
Had a good debut last year here at Sebring, did Chris. He was on the podium in the first race. He was driving with Jackson Lee in that race. Jackson's in this field as well, this time in the pro class. But you're right. I mean, the pace has been really good for Chris Tasca all throughout the weekend. That's an unfortunate way for this race to get started, and it might have been assisted.
Yeah, it was assisted. Definitely the 41 was in there and got a little bit of that right rear. The 41 driven by Paul Nimshoff and shares that car with Mark Miller. And Miller was talking about what a great job Paul has been doing. The problem is you get in there, and I think, Ryan, if you get into the anti-lock braking system in there, it's not going to slow down anymore. And Paul doing all he could to try to avoid him. He was up on the curb. I think he realized, hey, the door is closing, but could not get it slowed down in time. The contact was there, and I'm sure that race control will take a look at that.
No question about it. Tough one there for Paul and Mark Miller. That car qualified extremely well for race 2 tomorrow, so I think if they can catch a break, if there is a penalty for this, then and get back into this thing. I mean, that car in the second half should be awfully quick with Mark driving. Wayne Taylor Racing prepared car once again, representing Lamborghini of Palm Beach.
Well, and Miller and Nimshoff had a pretty good 2025. They were third in the Pro-Am Championship, 4 podiums, 4 additional top 5s, but had some bad luck along the way as well. And the season not really starting off the way they wanted it to. But you know what? You put your head down, you charge back forward, and you can see what you can get out of it. We'll have to see if there is a penalty or not. Chris Toscan really needs to do the same thing. I'm going to drive as well as I can. Hopefully there'll be a full course caution. I can get back in the fight.
There is a penalty. That message just got handed down. Incident responsibility, so a drive-through penalty coming the way of Paul Nimshoff. He'll want to get that done as quickly as possible. That way, if there should be a full course yellow, he can get bunched up with the field once again. The worst thing that could happen is a yellow comes out before he served the penalty. They get bunched up, and then he has to serve that drive-through. So you typically want to get that taken care of at the first opportunity.
Absolutely. Right now, Will Bamber leading in the pro category and overall. Danny Vermael holding station in second on the racetrack, but leading in Pro-Am. And you go back to Am, Johann Schwartz making his debut in the series. He qualified up front. He leads that category. He had a birthday just a couple of days ago. And then in LB Cup, after that problem for Tosca, Rocky T. Bulldog now in the lead in LB Cup. Rocky and Tosca had shared the top spot throughout the practice and qualifying sessions. They were both 1 and 2 in every session that they ran, and that problem for Tosca has given the lead to Bulldog in LB Cup.
Here's the drive-through for Nimshoff. And Rocky, what a year he had last year, came up just shy of the LB Cup championship, only 2 points on the wrong side of that tally. Swept the weekend at Misano, part of the World Final weekend. That was the season finale for the North American Championship as well, and still wasn't quite enough to get him the title.
Well, and he had some horrible luck along the way that really kind of kept him out of it, but he's much like Chris Tosca. He has improved so much over the last year. You just see it week in and week out, and they're going to have, both of those drivers are going to have more race wins throughout this season. Rocky's obviously on the good side of luck right now. We still have a long way to go, right? But runs a family business. Bulldog Maple Farms, also a company called Optaline, and they are very, very family-oriented. The employees that they have love working for those companies. He's just a great personality. And right now, he's got a great race car underneath him. Sees a little push and shove, a little argy-bargy out on the racetrack.
I think that was David Staub losing a mirror with some contact with Matteo Cederman, who's coming up through the field. Remember, we mentioned had the incident in qualifying. Unfortunately, that meant they couldn't qualify for race 2 either. So both races to start this season, they're going to have to come from the back. Cederman's done a pretty good job of it. He's climbed his way up to 21st overall, 6th in the Pro-Am class, but it's stalled out somewhat now, just behind the second place car in the AM class, David Staub, who's turning some pretty decent lap times himself. That's the thing about it, Brian. It only gets harder as you make your way forward through the field.
Oh, absolutely, it does. And what do you think a mirror cost off of a Lamborghini Huracan?
I hesitate to think about it, Brian.
I watched that bouncing across the racetrack, and it was just painful. But you got to think about it, too. All these cars have rear-facing cameras, so even in the absence of that mirror, he's going to have pretty decent vision behind him. And right now he's got a mirror full of that Lamborghini just behind from TR3 Racing. That all of their cars so brightly colored this year, that orange and black from TR3.
It does look like Cederman's been able to get through and actually put a pass on Ian Porter. So picked up another spot. He's now climbed his way up to 5th in Pro-Am, up to 19th overall. and left that battle behind him. So that's good news there for that bunch. Meanwhile, at the front, it's still Will Bamber, and the gap has only grown nearly 2 seconds now over Danny Formal. Hampus Eriksson has not been able to match the pace of his teammate. We were wondering, would they play the team game a little bit? Doesn't really matter if you're not being held up by the teammate, and I think it's safe to say Formal is not holding anybody up right now.
No, and I would think that was the conversation. Once we go green, if Danny is quicker, we're not going to let you by because we don't want to have him drop back closer to the competition behind. If you get there, we'll let you go if you've got the faster car, but we're not going to slow down to let you by.
Right, that's I think what we've seen play out here, and they'll settle in and maybe try and take the fight to Bamber and his co-driver Elias De La Torre in the second half of this race. De La Torre, by the way, secured the pole position for race number 2 tomorrow. It was a clean sweep of poles for that pairing that finished second in the championship last year. They spent a good chunk of the season as the championship leaders. Didn't really go their way down the stretch, but they're back loaded for bear here in the second year as a pairing, and this is pretty much the start. You dream up, right, when you turn up to the first race of the season. Car's been fast in all the practices, on pole for both of the races, and at least through the early stages of race 1, they've been the class of the field.
Well, it was really interesting to watch the 2025 season, Ryan. I mean, Danny Formal, Hampus Eriksson started out like gangbusters. 2 poles at Sebring, 2 wins at Sebring. Then they faltered at Laguna in the first race, came back with another podium, and then Watkins Glen was dismal for that pairing. Dropped well back in the points, and that's when De La Torre and Will Bamber really were able to close in and start to grab that championship lead. But then, for Formal and Eriksson, at Road America, they were like, no, this is ours, and we're not going to let go of it. And they went on a string of 5 straight wins, including the first race in Misano at the World Finals. And there was just no quit in those 2, and ended up obviously with the championship. But it was an up and down battle throughout 2025 in the pro category. It was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it was. Really enjoyed that. They kind of exchanged body blows at different times, and just at the end of the day, the clock kind of ran out on De La Torre and Bamber, whereas Formal and Eriksson were on the upswing a little bit, but it's a brand new season, and the shoe could end up being on the other foot. That's certainly been the case here early on. Car in the pits. This is Anthony Bullock. This car had a testing incident, I believe, and that brand new team, X09 Motorsports, they had a lot of work to do to get that car ready for the weekend, and Anthony's been reasonably fast so far. This is far too early, though, to be in the pit lane.
Yeah, some kind of a mechanical problem. You see him looking at the right rear, and you wonder if it is something that's left from a testing incident, or this racetrack, if you are all over the curbs, the racetrack will beat you anyway. But if you're all over the curbs, you drop wheels at some of the end of these curbings out there, you get kind of a hole worn at the end of some of these curbings with the soft sand that's there, and you can damage the suspension. But Bullock, I mean, he had 2 good finishes here last year. It was 4th both times he ran. So it's not the driver right now. There's something with that car as the crew member kind of shakes each corner to see if he can feel any movement. So I think what Tony must be feeling in the car is just something that's unstable. It doesn't feel quite right. And he's saying something's not pointing in the direction that I want to, or more importantly, it works in a right-hand corner but not in a left, or vice versa. And from a driver's perspective, you don't want the unknown. And so you're much better off with the speed that these cars go and the performance that they have to get that checked so that you can race again tomorrow.
Should also note there's another car that appears to be in strife. Keon Tandon is shown as in the pit lane and has been there for roughly 4 laps at this point. That's 47 Motorsports. He shares the car with Lindsey Brewer, runner-up in the M class last year. And no word yet on what might have befell that machine, but looks like they're in for an extended stay in the pit lane.
Good little scrap there with Henry aboard the 44 from Kazan Autosport. I love the livery on that. It's just awesome, right? You're not going to get confused about who it is when you see the car, whether it's from the front or the side. The back, it's kind of hard to tell with all of them, but having a good scrap right now with Miller just in front of him aboard the number 40 from Alliance Racing. So good battles throughout. We talk about the different classes, and what you're going to find is everywhere around this racetrack, there's going to be some kind of a fight going on, hopefully within people that are within your class, I should say, so that you're not having to scrap to try to get to the front. But I'm looking at the back of the 12 right now, and was that fluid on the diffuser in the back, or was that just glue that had been put on there from before that is dripping off? I think it's fluid.
I'll defer to you because I was
That's
watching
fluid.
the battle on the track there, and okay, confirmation for Brian. Jack William Miller, the ex-Indy Next driver, spent a couple of years there, just got passed by that 44 that we were commenting on, Seth Henry. Meanwhile, problems again for Chris Tasca.
Well, we know the first problem was not of his own doing, and we talked about just being patient and trying to hope that you get a yellow to come back. What about this time? Tasca on the outside, and it's cut and paste almost, except this one was more from behind than it was from the side, and around he goes. He's got to be thinking, I'm doing everything I can to get where I need to go, and nobody's letting me get there, because every time I move up or try to hold station, I get removed.
This could be a frustrating game, and I suspect this is about as frustrating a day behind the wheel as Chris has had in some time. Hate that it's happened once. It's so strange that almost a carbon copy, it happens again, but you continue on, hope you catch a yellow and maybe get yourself back into the mix.
Well, interestingly enough, it was the 41 car that got into Tasca, and that would be Paul Nimshoff, who was the car that got him at turn 7. So again, it's one of those things where you think you've got the opening and you start to get in there, and once the car is turned, it kind of becomes you're committed and you can't get on the brake any harder because the ABS is already going off and you just can't get slowed down. And it looks like Tasca likes to slow the car down at the apex a little bit and get a good run off the corner, and Nimshoff trying to roll a little more speed through the middle, and he just got the back end of Tasca, and around he goes.
Talked about a potential problem for Keon Tandon, and now that car is shown running in 10th. So I wonder if maybe it was a transponder issue that that I was noticing that had that car at the back of the pack. That I hope is the case. I hope they are up in a 10th or 11th, wherever they end up right now. But strange set of circumstances there. We'll try and keep on top of that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's on my timing and scoring screen as well, being shown 11th overall and 2nd in the Pro-Am category. Tandon is, so perhaps just a transponder issue. And while you can't get lap times a lot of times when that happens, at least the telemetry will tell you where the car is, and so timing and scoring can count laps, and that is the most important right now. Qualifying for race number 2 is already done, so this is not one of those series where you take the fastest race lap from race number 1 for your qualifying for round number 2. Take a look at the 89 right now. Good run going there. That is Johann Schwartz. We talked about birthday boy, had a birthday just a couple of days ago, and now the 63 looks up the inside and a little side-to-side contact right there for Schwartz. This is a very different ball game than what he is used to. A lot more horsepower in this Lamborghini than the other GT-type machinery he's driven in the past. Former championship winner in other categories, but this is a big step.
Yeah, he's a former touring car champion over in SRO, and we've seen him in GT4s over the years, but you're right, this is a monumental step. Meanwhile, problems for David Staub here in the LB Cup class. It's seen that car lose a mirror, I believe, a little bit earlier, so he's been in the wars.
And this
Sure
is
what
going to
the
help
cause of that
Schwartz
was.
because
Yeah.
it's going to drop Staub that much further back.
Yeah, exactly. Johan, even though we saw the Matteo Cederman car get by, that's out of class, so you know that's not really a fight worth fighting. Let that one play through, and now builds that gap a little bit further.
So he is back underway, and we were talking about the 12 being on pit road, and the reason why I said fluid, Ryan, was you saw some type of a breather tube off the right rear of that car, and the thing that was odd was the color of the fluid that was there, more pushing and shoving. That's what turned David Staub around. It was the number 70 of Dan Newell's aboard another one of the TR3 entries, and the official, as you know, will look at that as well.
That was a class battle, second and third right there. So the cars that were chasing Johann Schwartz within the M class, they come together. One is delayed, the other is going to be looked at for that collision, and that could be really good news for the 89X team as they run.
Not good news for Paul Nimshoff aboard the 41. Another penalty for incident responsibility, and the incident between the 48 and the 70 now under review, and I've got a pretty good idea how that one's going to go as well.
Now, you've done that job before. You've handed out a few of those in your day in race control.
You're making me sound like a bad person.
It comes with the territory, right?
It's a parental thing. This is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Not really. It always hurts the driver more, yeah.
I don't think they ever buy that when you try and sell them that line.
No. Neither do your kids when you tell them that.
Amen.
All right. I would like to say things settling down a little bit. Think about pit stops. Remember, there is a required pit stop here, and for those two driver pairings, this is when that driver change will happen. You will not see fuel go in, and rarely will you see a tire be changed unless it has been flat spotted or damaged. And right now, if I'm in the lead, like Will Bamber is, I'm going to try to run as far as I can. I've got a good car underneath me. There's no reason for him to start early or to stop early. So it's one of those deals. Try to continue to stretch your lead over Hampus Eriksson. About 3.5 seconds right now is what he has in hand. Problem is, right behind is Danny Vermael, and what Hampus Eriksson is hoping, Ryan, is that his teammate, Danny Vermael, in the Pro-Am category, goes and puts some pressure on Bamber and maybe gets Bamber to make a mistake. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Not likely, but that's what they can try for, try and play that team game a little bit. We expect that Vermael will run long in his stint.
Yeah.
He's a little more experienced than Graham Doyle, who is his co-driver here this weekend, so that's likely to be a longer stint. In the pro class, where you don't have as much of a disparity in outright pace between the two drivers, I think it's typically you do want to come in at the earliest time of asking just to cover yourself from the potential full course yellow. So there's a chance that this could sort itself out naturally that way, but depends on how the teams decide to play this.
Yeah, and when you look at the driver lineup in the 29, I think they're pretty even. You actually look at the performance of that car throughout the sessions this weekend. The worst they finished was 4th in the first practice session, and then they led practice 2, on pole for this race, on pole for race number 2. So De La Torre, a good shoe as well. He was part of the Lamborghini Young Driver program, so both of those drivers aboard the 29 very, very quick. Obviously, Vermael is, and Vermael's not going to throw it all away trying to get by Will Bamber either. Danny Vermael didn't win the championships that he has won by making bad decisions on the racetrack. So it's one of those deals where he'll be smart as well, smart and respectful. Both of these drivers up front have a lot to lose. Now, Bamber out of the lead to pit road.
Yeah, that's what I thought might happen. Get him out of harm's way. Not that you expect anything to go awry, but just take him out of that situation completely. This also covers for a potential yellow flag, and this is great for Vermael as well. Now he can go unencumbered, lay down fast laps, and try and build the gap for his co-driver in the second half of the race. Vermael, by the way, has the fastest lap of the race, and he's got it by a pretty wide margin. He did a 2:07. I don't see anybody else below a 2:01.4, so that's about 0.7 of a second that he has in hand in terms of best lap time so far in the first half of the race.
That is impressive. More penalties coming in. The 70 will have incident responsibility with the 48. That will be a drive-through. So there's been some pushing and shoving out on the racetrack today as we continue to watch pit stops go down. And I just think it was such a good decision. I was right there with you, Ryan. Danny Vermael's not in the same class, but he can put pressure on you, and you can potentially make a mistake. So just get out of the sauna, right, where it's hot and it's steamy, and you know you might be forced into a mistake. Just get out of it. You know you got to make a pit stop anyway, and I think it was a great decision for TR3. And I wonder how much Will Bamber had to say about that as well. He might have said, yeah, let's get out of here just in case, and we'll go on with our race right now.
Especially because it doesn't harm you at all strategically.
Not at all.
Again, you're covered off should there be a yellow. So that's I think a pretty good choice. This was a close call. Exiting the pits a few moments ago. Was it more than a close call? No, I do think they stayed off one another, at least initially, but man, that was awfully tight. One of the perils of racing here at Sebring, the way that pit exit feeds right into the natural racing line at the exit of turn 1.
Well, and that's the thing. As you're coming out of the pits, you can get up to speed relatively quickly because remember, these hand-cooked tires are up to temperature and they are up to pressure. If you're this car coming down the front straightaway, you can see that car coming out and you're sitting there thinking, where am I going to catch him? Is this going to be tight? Is this going to be close? And if you have committed to the line in turn 1 as the car on the racetrack, slowing down after turn-in in that long duration high-speed corner is difficult, very difficult because of the load on the car and the bumps on the racetrack.
Wow, the AM class. We talked about the collision with the penalty just handed down to Dean Newells. Another penalty. This one goes to the class leader in AM. Johann Schwartz did the opening stint, and I think he's driving solo now, so he'll have to serve this, a drive-through for a pit lane speed violation. Everyone at the front of this class has had some misfortune or another. It's one of those curious races where it doesn't seem like anybody quite wants to take control of it.
Let's talk about Danny Vermaal's lap time for just a moment. And I was talking earlier about this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 is the fastest GT car in a straight line here this weekend. To bear that out, Danny Vermaal's fastest lap, 2 minutes, 0.733 seconds. The fastest GTD car in the second WeatherTech practice session was a 2 minute, 0.029. That's with a lot more downforce on it, and that car, the GTD car, is going to be much quicker through sections like this. When you talk about the seriousness of what a Lamborghini Super Trofeo car is, that gives you an idea. Just about 0.6 of a second off of a GTD time, and the time difference is really in the corners. The straight line speed for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo is faster in Super Trofeo North America than it is in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
It's an amazing piece of kit, that's for sure. A problem, it looks like, for Ian Porter. He was off and on. I think that was down at turn 15 possibly. Ian, a rookie, making his first start, had a really good year in VP Challenge competition, won the bronze championship in the GSX class. He's one of the rookies, though, Brian, who told me, whoa, this car is something else. He said the first session he was out there in it, he felt like he was in some kind of foreign environment. He had never been in anything quite like it, but he's gotten his head around it. I think that's going to be a fun car to watch as the year progresses. Ian, a multi-time world champion Call of Duty player who turned race car driver just in the last couple of years, and he's teamed up with Kobe Chambers, a race winner in the F1 Academy Series, so that could be a lot of fun to watch as they get acclimated to this Super Trofeo car.
Yeah, I mean, a big, big step for Ian. We'll talk more about that in just a moment because I want to watch this as we head into turn 1. Quite the scrum there. That's going to be exciting to watch. 27, Jaden Conwright, now out in front. Talented young driver that we have seen throughout multiple classes in the IMSA paddock, and now somewhat found a bit of a home here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Very talented young driver, and another one of those drivers that you can look forward to seeing more of in the future in sports car racing.
I think so too. Finished 4th in the championship last year in the pro class. Didn't do the final couple of races. Boy, that gets tight quickly.
You could see the 81 just getting a little wide under the brakes. Couldn't quite turn in yet. Didn't have the car settled, and that was a great, great decision on the part of Ian Porter to say, I'm not going to do that just yet because I don't think that I have the car underneath me. I don't want to spin, and I certainly don't want to take anybody with me. So a good call there to sit and settle for just a moment before making that decision to turn on in. It's actually Chloe Chambers behind the wheel of the 81 right now. So not much time behind the wheel because Ian Porter started.
Exactly, and right into the maelstrom out of the pits. I mean, you get chucked right into it, right away, and the others that you enter around are in a fight of their own that's been going on for a lap or two, and suddenly you've got to sort that all out. Wow, you get accustomed to the car, get acclimated, get up to speed and in your rhythm. Not an easy task.
Pro class leader on pit road, so we're going to watch this cycle through. They don't have much more time to make a pit stop. If you haven't done it, you need to get in and get in now, because if you don't get into the pit lane to do your mandatory pit stop before the pit window closes, they will add 3 minutes to your race time. That is the penalty, and around here, that is obviously more than a lap.
On the subject of penalties, Rocky T. Baldock, who had a good run going in LB Cup, a short pit stop. These pit stops are governed by a minimum pit stop time. If you come in under that time by less than a second, it's a multiplier time penalty, but if you're over, it's a drive-through. And unfortunately for Rocky, he and the team were over, so that's going to be a really costly miscue.
Yeah, so it all is about the math. Less than a second under, as you just said, the multiplier is 3. So if you were half a second quick on your pit stop, they're going to give you a 1.5 second penalty at the end of the race. They'll just move you back 1.5 seconds, see where you fall. If it's more than a second short, but less than 20 seconds short, it's a drive-through penalty. And if it's more than 20 seconds short, I don't know how that could ever happen, but if it's more than 20 seconds short, it is a 3-minute penalty added to your race time at the end, just like missing the window and not getting in time. So obviously more than a second and less than 20, and that's gonna be painful. And Rocky, like I said, he's just thrilled. As silly as it sounds, he's just thrilled to be here. He's living his dream, and he's got a smile on his face. This will frustrate him, but he just enjoys being here. He's got a great race car. He's got another race to go after tomorrow. Look at this.
Yeah, oh, super tight. This is, again, cars trying to get up to speed. So the erstwhile leader in the Pro-Am class may yet cycle up to the lead in the class. We'll see. That's Danny Formal, who started in the 10. Graham Doyle in the car now. And the 29, that's De La Torre, has come through. So I think that's going to be for the de facto overall lead of the race when this all gets cycled through.
I would think so as well. And again, know who you're racing with. Who is in your class, who is not. Don't throw it away. And as you said, Elias De La Torre trying to charge to the front right now.
Yeah, that's what he's here to do. Again, runners-up last year, he and Will Bamber in the championship. Getting off to a really strong start here this weekend. Of course, he's a Floridian from down in Key Largo, so always special to get to race on home soil. Really impressive young man, studied mechanical engineering at Texas A&M, and applies that, of course, to his racing. So many drivers do that these days. Mark Donohue really blazed that trail, didn't he, back in the 60s and 70s, but now it's pretty common, actually, to bump into a race car driver, who has a mechanical engineering degree.
So I'm go past Rocky T. Baldock, as we were talking about Rocky just a few minutes ago. Interesting you talk about that engineering side of it, and Texas A&M. It was interesting to see Texas A&M on the side of one of Meyershank Racing's IndyCar at the Arlington Grand Prix last weekend. So I think even a lot of the universities now realize that their students, motorsport is real. And I think for a long time, people just went, oh, gearhead, yeah, da-da-da-da. But now there are degrees, as you see the 10 slide wide. Graham Doyle doing everything he can to hold on to that Lamborghini. He's got it back under control. Quite a ride there in turn 5.
I'll tell you what, those were two teammates there, and they did not manage that all that well. I don't think that benefited either of them. It certainly didn't help Graham Doyle out at all. Now he has a healthy lead to work with, but that looked like a pass that could have been orchestrated earlier at a time and place of their choosing that would have been less of a handicap toward lap time here. But what it has done ultimately is let Nick Persing through. That's a car that was started by Hampus Eriksson, and now his job is to try and catch De La Torre.
Joaquin Murillo off as well, debut this weekend here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and a bit of a family affair because both father and son here, and the son is Joaquin, his dad is Daniel, and Daniel running in the 74 in the AM category with Paul Whiting. So how cool is that to go race Lamborghinis with your kid on the weekend?
Well, I've never driven a Lamborghini with my dad, but I have gone racing with my dad, and it is special indeed, that's for sure. As we look at Scott Schmidt, TPC racing driver, facing the wrong way, and now just trying to pick his way through to get back, pointed the right direction. Looks like that was down just at the exit of the hairpin.
Yeah,
and he's
whenever
able to
I
find
see a car around at the hairpin, Ryan,
yeah.
I kind of wonder. I want to see the whole thing because so often it's not just the one car that we see that's sitting there still.
Not a lot of jumpers, but a lot of pushers if you follow down in that part of the racetrack. Everything gets constricted. So the old question, did he jump or was he pushed?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe we will. You saw TPC on the front of the car. You talk about new teams, new drivers in this series. TPC, not a new team, but they haven't been here for a while. And Harris Levitt is saying, hey, I'm so looking forward to bringing my team back into Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Good to see them back. Several new teams, several new drivers. That's why you have the record field that you have here this weekend. And again, it just speaks for the health and the vitality of this series. And as I said, it has become a destination for a lot of drivers, and for other drivers, it has become a very important rung on the ladder to move up in their career.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and part of the reason is these are beasts to drive. It's a great training ground. If you could drive one of these things fast, there's not much you can't drive, as Elias De La Torre works his way around one of the team cars from the TR3 stable. Current leader of the race, 2.6 seconds at the last check, but actually gave up quite a bit of time in the first sector, which is a short sector, to Nick Persing, who is off in pursuit now that he's clear. There is Persing in car number 1. About to see the sector times through the middle. They're pretty even, so he's inching closer, but time running out. He's going to need to do more than inch closer if they're going to challenge for the win.
Well, you got to think, too, about conserving these hand-cooked tires just a little bit. You still have 14 minutes to go around here. The temperature has come up throughout the day, beginning to drop ambient temperature now, air temperature, but the track temperature is still going to be warm. And the longer you stay out on these tires, the worse they're going to get. So you got to think about, hey, if I've got a comfortable lead right now, maybe I should be content to just ride and be comfortable. Don't let your mind wander, but ride and be comfortable, and don't use up too much of that very valuable hand-cooked rubber, holding a significant lead that it doesn't matter how much you win by, right, Ryan? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a car length or 10. You just want to be in front at the end, and you want to make sure the best way to do that is have a good car underneath you and don't use too much of it up too soon.
Seems sensible to me. Plus, you want to leave a little something in reserve, and in case there's a full course yellow, we have a late race restart. You don't want to burn through the consumables, in this case the tires, in the event of a late restart that would put you potentially on the back foot. Looking momentarily at Graham Doyle. That was a moment ago. He's the leader in Pro-Am. But we got a really close fight in the Am class. First, second, and third all pretty close together here. Nick Grote has the lead. David Staub, he's been in the wars today, Brian. It seems like every time we've seen him, something's been going on. Missing one of those mirrors, but closing in on Grote for the lead in class. And it looks like he might be bringing Johann Schwartz with him.
Absolutely, and when you think about it, Staub was about 0.6 of a second faster last time by than Nick Grote, so he's got a good car. We know that. We saw him earlier, and then he had his problems drop back. Now he's charged back through again. The question is, I'll throw the hand-cooked tire back at you. How much tire did he use to get back to the front? Does he have anything to do battle with? But remember, Johann Schwartz started up front. We know he's got a good car underneath him, and same thing. He had a penalty that moved him back, and so now they are all together, and we'll see who can strategize their way to the front. And for David Staub, he doesn't want you to rough him up because he's already missing a mirror that I can't even imagine how much that thing costs. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So looking for some good, clean racing over the next 11.5 minutes to get us to the checkered flag. A problem for Schwartz, though, at the exit of 5, got just a little bit loose, and he's dropped a few car lengths further back than he was behind David Staub just as they came across the line.
In the grand scheme of things, though, a minor problem. Unfortunately, not so for Gianno Torino, who is off track. That's a car that was running inside the top 10 in the pro class, top 10 overall as well. Former champion in this series, driving for a new team, Torino Racing, but that car has found a cutout and evidently is out of the race. Meanwhile, in LB Cup, leader right now, Ray Shahi, with Clay Wilson trying to close down that gap, and I think that is Clay just behind there in car 37, so inching a little bit closer, not too far behind. You find Christopher Kobe, who's making his debut in the championship. Really, really close stuff at the front of the LB Cup field.
Problem here for the number 16, off down in turn 15. Rodin Unesi, and I think he must have had some type of a mechanical problem or a hiccup to pull over there and out of the way. He was definitely not at speed when he was there, but now back on the racetrack and accelerating forward. We were talking about Ray Shahi, though, leading in the LB Cup. He had a pretty good season. There's a look at Unesi's problem. It wasn't mechanical, unless you talk about the amount of rubber that came off the Hancooks as he was sliding sideways and turning around. He's back underway. He's new to Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but we were talking about Shahi leading in LB Cup after the problems for Chris Tosca and Rocky T. Bulldog, and it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you are there. So Shahi looking for a win. He was winless last year in LB Cup, but had some good performances running up front. But tell you what, if you start the season with a win, that's got to make you feel good. Third in LB Cup last year, 4 podiums and 4 additional top 5s, but there's nothing like the top step.
Yeah, never stood on the top step in Super Trofeo competition. He did 3 races at the end of 2024. Did the full season last year, as you said, 3rd in the championship, but hasn't yet tasted victory. 9.5 minutes away now.
Understand that Nick Persing is going to have a post-race time penalty of 1.23 seconds for a short pit stop. I'm looking for Ernie Francis back behind him to see how far back he is. I think he's going to be okay, Persing, with that penalty. I'm not sure Francis is going to be able to make a move forward with that penalty. Ernie Francis driving solo today. Remember, he was supposed to be running with Luke Berkeley, Ryan, but Berkeley fell ill and is not in the car today. It'll be interesting to see if he's in the car tomorrow. But Ernie Francis, 2024 Pro Class champion, he certainly knows how to drive one of these cars, and if he can find some open racetrack and has a good enough car underneath him, maybe he can close this distance down a little bit. But he's pretty far back, about 18 seconds right now off of the leader, so about 16 seconds, I would think, off of Nick Persing.
Right, that's an awfully tall task with just 8 minutes to go. Wish you speedy recovery, Luke, by the way. Hope you're in the car tomorrow if you're feeling up to it. But for Francis, the thing that would help in a big way, and that would be disastrous news for Persing, would be if this race were to end behind the safety car, because all of a sudden a 1.6 second time penalty is really punitive. I'm not saying this because this is what I'm trying to wish into the world, Brian, but I do want to set the table here just in case it's something that pops up. Okay, positive from here on out.
Positive thoughts. Well, no, I mean, you bring up a really, really good point. We have seen that in the past, and it's interesting. There is a new rule now. If the race finishes under yellow, everyone must stay in single file formation behind the safety car with approximately 2 car lengths between each car. So at safety car speed and 2 car lengths behind each car, it may not be enough anyway. All of that stemmed from a finish at Watkins Glen a couple of seasons ago when everybody lagged back coming to the line behind the safety car, and everybody, I think there were 4 cars essentially side by side. Nobody passed. So technically no one passed under yellow, but the transponders were very close to each other when they crossed the line. And some of those drivers had time penalties that they were trying to beat. So the officials said, well, we'll take care of that. And there is a new stipulation in the sporting regulations that do just that.
Well, clever teams, clever racing drivers to find the little loopholes, and then race control has to try and sew them back up. That's what they do. Exactly so. And I think a sensible change, because that has the potential to tear up some race cars under safety car if it gets misjudged in any way. So better off just avoiding that potential outcome.
And I think the officials are just like race car drivers and engineers and teams. You don't know what you don't know until something happens, and then you go, aha. And when that happened, I think the officials went, aha, well, that's not going to happen again. You know, you find something magical that makes your car work, you use it again. You didn't know it before, you would have been using it all along, and officials the same way. And that's what you're supposed to do as an engineer and a team and as a race car driver, right? And that is find the gray. Not only the gray that you're driving on as far as the racetrack goes, but those gray areas that are hard to make a decision on for the officials and so on and so forth. It's kind of like reading between the lines.
It's a difficult task. I don't envy the rules makers or the rules enforcers for that matter. Much happier on this side of the fence. And hopefully none of that comes into play here in the final 5.5 minutes, and it's just an academic conversation between the two of us. Just hypothetical, right?
Hypothetical, that's right. Ray Shahi leading in LB Cup aboard his Torino Racing Lamborghini. Nick Grote in AM. And then you go to Pro-Am, Greg Doyle. They're in third on the racetrack, first in the Pro-Am category. And he's having a great run today. We talk about the experience that those teams have. Graham Doyle, I'm sorry, I said Greg. Graham Doyle and the experience of Wayne Taylor Racing. And then up front, overall, and in the pro category, Elias De La Torre for TR3 Racing. Not surprising to see that car there. You and I talked about it early on. Will Bamber, Elias De La Torre had such a great season last year, came up just short. And I think a lot of times, Ryan, when you're that close and you miss it, it just keeps the embers glowing. It keeps the fire going so that when the season does start again, 131 days later, by the way, as I said at the beginning, you're ready. You're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, they had plenty of motivation in the offseason, no doubt about it. Last year, here in the season opener, they finished second in both races. The car that won those two races went on to win the championship. So there is precedent for this event being important to start the season the right way, bank the points the way that you want to start the season. Then you can maybe weather a few storms throughout the middle part of the year should they pop up. This has been a pretty darn perfect start to the year based on practice, based on qualifying pole for both races, and now De La Torre needs to negotiate this traffic perfectly for about 2 more laps here, Brian. And if he can do that, then to the victor go the spoils.
And you talk about the fact that Danny Vermael, Hampus Eriksson won the first 2 races last year. And I believe that momentum in any sport is a real thing that helps move you forward. We saw that ebb and flow in the pro category last year. Vermael and Eriksson had a couple of problems, but as we said, came on like gangbusters in the last half of the season. And each time they won another race, it seemed to add another log on the fire, more momentum. For Elias De La Torre and Will Bamber, what are they going to do if they can hold on for the next 2 minutes and 50 seconds? What are they going to do with that momentum? You know they're going to try to put it to good use tomorrow. And there is that turn 7. It seems so simple, slowest corner on the racetrack, but again, problems in turn 7, the 16 and the 45.
To see where they were. 45 Holguin was 4th in the M class.
Nessie, we were talking about new to the series. And I'm not sure who got into who, but it doesn't really matter because both will be set well back.
Yeah. Oh, that was really close again. Unessi a little bit slow, getting back up to speed, trying to clear the accident site. And I don't know that the car coming through there knew there was a slow-moving car just up ahead. Another look at it. Ooh.
Oh. I think Unessi just got in there too hot. Didn't think he was going to be able to make the corner, and he just kind of straightens his hands. The problem is the 45 is already out there, and he collects him. So, you know, for Rodin Unessi, he has experience driving race cars, but he hasn't raced in a while, and it's one of those deals. That's why he is in LB Cup. And right now, this 600 horsepower plus Lamborghini Huracan is a lot to control, and a lot of times what you see in drivers that don't have a lot of experience, as the white flag waves for De La Torre is, it takes so much of your mental capacity to just keep the car underneath you. You sometimes lose the situational awareness. And I think for Rodin right now, he's got his hands full just trying to stay in the seat, right? Because it's a lot. We talk about the speed of these cars, and just a small mistake down there, unfortunately, collects someone else as well.
Well, that incident, unsurprisingly, is under review. I do want to quickly mention as well, a car that was in the top 10 overall that is now in strife. Tommy Gore has brought the Ansa Motorsports number 4 to the pit lane, and he's been there for a little while, so that car tumbling down the order. He and Colin Queen have been hanging around 7th, 8th, 9th pretty much all race long, but something apparently has gone awry in the final laps.
Speaking of the final laps, look at the shade in the back part of the course over in turns 10 and 11, where we find more trees around this Sebring International Raceway and the sun setting. And for Elias De La Torre, he knows just a half a lap around this 3.7 mile circuit will start the season off the way they want it, and that is with a win. 16 one more time.
Looking nice and smooth. He's actually been building the gap over Persing over the last few laps. It was 2.6 last time we talked about it, up to 4.2 seconds. Firmly in control, and he'll have pole for tomorrow's race as well.
2 wins in the 2025 season for TR3 Racing. Elias De La Torre, Will Bamber, second here at Sebring in both of those rounds. That will change this weekend, and it will change in a big, big way. Checkered flag falls. Elias De La Torre, Will Bamber, TR3 Racing start the season off with a victory at Sebring.
Great result for the pair of them. Now we wait for the Pro-Am leader, Graham Doyle. Danny Formal at the fastest lap of the race in that car. And he's turned the car over to Doyle, who had a great year last year in Am. Already flashing those lights as the checkered flag waves. Victory in race 1 to Doyle, Formal, and Wayne Taylor Racing.
All right, 2 classes down, and we'll wait for the rest of the field to come on through. Nick Grote leading in the Am category right now aboard his number 57. And for Nick Grote, he knows how to win in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. 2024 LB Cup champion, 2025 LB Cup champion, and now this season, can he do it in Am? He starts the way you want to, and that is with a victory, and so does Ray Shahi in LB Cup. Shahi, Torino Racing, they will celebrate here at Sebring with a win in LB Cup.
Oh, fantastic result for them. That was hard-earned and for a long time coming, I think it's safe to say. Congratulations, Ray. Really well done in a race where a few of the cars in the class faltered for various reasons. He kept his head and is going to be rewarded for it.
You know, and it's one of those things, Ryan, you and I have watched a lot of race victories over the years. It doesn't matter how it happens. It really doesn't, because when you look at the results on paper, it says Ryan Marine won the Indianapolis 500. Well, I haven't seen that one, but you get what I'm saying, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how it happens. It just matters that it does happen. And Nick Grote is going to win at Sebring, and he will chalk up another victory in LB Cup. X09 Racing, what a way to start the season. New team with a big trophy in Champaign.
Now, they came loaded for bear. 4 cars for a brand new team. Their first ever season racing in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. The second cousins, Tadas Karlinskas and Darius Trinka, putting this team together, coming with big aspirations, and to be rewarded with a class win in the first race. That's a really special accomplishment.
And now, if you're behind the wheel, you can actually take a breath. For some of these guys, we saw some great battles. That battle in Am with Nick Grote, David Staub, Johann Schwartz, that was intense in the second half of the race for sure. And Staub had been in it all day, which is why he doesn't have a right side mirror. But now you can kind of relax a little bit. And it's funny, I think as an athlete, you find some way to use up all the energy that you have whether it's in a 50-minute sprint race or a 2.5, 3 hour triple stint in IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. And I can tell you these drivers exhausted. De La Torre, Bamber, what a way to start the season.
Oh, fantastic. This is what they needed to do after coming in runners-up in both of these races here last year, starting the championship bid off with a win, and they'll start from pole tomorrow.
Good stuff. Danny Formal wins again at Sebring, this time in another class. You can only win so many championships before you got to move on along. And Wayne Taylor Racing did a great job of saying, hey, I think we'll take Danny, we'll put him in Pro-Am, we'll take another one of our customers, put them together. They'll have a shot at that championship, and we'll make sure that we keep Persing and Erickson together in Pro. Moving on, second page. Look back through there. We talked about Nick Grote. Great victory there in the AM category, so great job for him. And Ray Shahi in LB Cup celebrating the victory there. And really some good fights all around the racetrack. It's exactly what we expect to see at Sebring, isn't it, Ryan? A little push, a little shove, some incidents, but in the end, some great racing.
Oh, absolutely. Didn't have any safety car interruptions. There were definitely a few moments here and there, but when you've got 39 cars, a record 39 cars for the opening round of the season taking the start, you're going to have that from time to time. Plenty of action. Sets the table nicely for tomorrow.
And speaking of tomorrow, 39 cars in today's race. I didn't see any big incidents, so there should be 39 cars in tomorrow's race as well. And so, again, this series continues to grow and continues to impress. Elias De La Torre in victory lane. Long trip down for Will Bamber, I would imagine, but doesn't feel so long when you're victorious. Look at De La Torre celebrating 2 wins last year, like I said, and they're starting the season with a big, long schedule in front of them and plenty of time to add more.
Now this sends a message, though, a statement of intent. They intend to be championship contenders. Frankly, they intend to be champions by the end of this season.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Wayne Taylor, hey, he's down here to watch his Lamborghinis run. And again, it brings everybody to the fences, fills the grandstands, because it is some awesome racing. Speaking of awesome racing, race number 2 of the season tomorrow from right here at Sebring, 4:35. Do not miss it. For Ryan Marine, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Take care.